The 8.8 magnitude earthquake that struck Russia's Far East shook nerves but spared the Pacific from actual disaster. Yet, scientists are saying the next one, closer to home, might not. The US West Coast, they warn, is silently waiting for a killer wave that could tower 100 feet high. Take a look.
The alarm bells have never rung louder. A massive 8.8 magnitude earthquake rocked Russia's Far East, unleashing tsunami waves and launching urgent warnings across the Pacific. The shallow earthquake damaged buildings and injured several people in the remote Russian region. Over 2 million people in Japan's eastern seaboard were ordered to evacuate. Hawaii readied for surges, but fears of a catastrophe were not realized, and people took a sigh of relief.
I heard the tsunami warning at work, as my workplace is by the beach. My co-workers told me to go back home because I have a small child, and she was waiting at home, so I came to pick her up.
The tremors were strong, especially the first one, which was stronger than the second and third. It's something we have never experienced here. There were many comments from all the people about whether they had felt an earthquake like the one felt yesterday.
The massive quake and tsunami warning once again brought focus on the danger lurking just off the coast of California. Scientists have pinpointed the Cascadia Subduction Zone, a colossal 600-mile-long fault running from California to Washington, as the epicenter of this existential risk. Here, centuries of pent-up geological tension threaten to snap with unimaginable fury. According to leading seismologists, there is now a 15% chance of a mega earthquake along the Cascadia Subduction Zone within the next 50 years. This isn't a mere shake and rattle event. It could unleash a 100-foot-high tsunami that would destroy swathes of the US West Coast within minutes. The massive quake in Russia's Far East did not cause much damage, but it rattled the scientific community for good reason. It reminded the world that these plates are active, unstable, and overdue for catastrophe.
The North American plate is like the sponge, and the subducting Pacific plate is like this book. And the average convergence rate between these two plates is like 7 to 8 centimeters per year, so on average. But during the regular times, in most of the time, they are stick together due to friction. So you are changing the shape of the sponge. So the sponge is squeezed, it's being squeezed.
Unlike hurricanes, tsunamis strike with almost no time to flee. A wave spawned in the Pacific could reach the Oregon coastline in under 15 minutes. No chance to evacuate, no time to hesitate, only devastation.
And US President Donald Trump's tariff bomb was expected to be a mega blow for the Indian stock markets. But surprisingly enough, investors have largely shrugged off the 25% tariff threats from US President Donald Trump. The day began with a setback. The markets opened in the red. Equity investors lost 5 lakh crore rupees in 15 minutes early in the day. But as the day progressed, stocks recovered those losses completely. The blue chip Sensex index Sensex jumped over 1,000 points, in fact, from the day's low, even as it closed in the red. Domestic stocks remained volatile through the session. However, the reaction was less severe than in April, when Trump first announced higher tariffs. With a more domestic-oriented economy and deep strategic autonomy, India is not folding easily. The fact is, India's exports are only a marginal contributor to the country's GDP, and analysts expect the hit from US tariffs to be limited to only a few sectors. And still, India will face some pain in the near term, especially on the rupee front. The tariffs come just when foreign capital outflows have already been a drag on the Indian currency. The latest tariffs adding to the existing pressure on the rupee from continued foreign fund outflows and the global risk of sentiment. The rupee fell to a 4-month low, hovering just below its record week level following Trump's tough talk on India. And adding to the pressure, the US has sanctioned 6 Indian companies for buying petrochemicals from Iran. These sanctions block their assets in the US and stop American firms from doing business with them. And while the direct trade impact may be small, it sends out a strong message. This could hurt market sentiment, raise concerns about more trade restrictions, and also put extra pressure on the rupee. Despite the sharp fall, market participants noting that the Reserve Bank of India likely intervened to cap volatility in the currency. And analysts believe, however, that firm intervention may remain limited in the near term given the uncertain external environment. In broader currency markets, Asian peers remained range-bound, while the US dollar index eased slightly. US President Donald Trump's targeting India stands even more for the fact that he curiously omits China and cozies up to Pakistan. And tonight on Gravitas, we are asking, why is Trump anti-India? Donald Trump announced a 25% tariff on Indian goods and hinted at penalties over India's continued purchase of Russian oil and military equipment. And this comes just days before a self-imposed trade deal deadline, effectively putting a question mark over months of bilateral negotiations. While Trump claims India is a friend, his policies and actions seem to suggest otherwise. Posting on his Truth Social platform, Donald Trump accused India of imposing excessive tariffs and non-monetary barriers and complained about a trade imbalance. He claimed India sells far more to the US than it buys, all while acknowledging that Prime Minister Narendra Modi remains a friend, and then posting moments later, don't care what India does with Russia, quote unquote.
So, as you know, Prime Minister Modi is a friend of mine, but they don't do very much business in terms of business with us. They sell a lot to us, but we don't buy from them. You know why? Because the tariff is so high. They have one of the highest tariffs in the world. Now they're willing to cut it very substantially, but we'll see what happens. We're talking to India now. We'll see what happens.
Serious questions will now be asked about India's foreign relations policy and the trajectory of the US-India partnership, a relationship that once appeared to be on an upward curve, but now shows signs of strain. And that's why the real work must begin at home. India needs to fortify its economy and make it truly competitive. That means protecting itself from predatory dumping, aggressively pursuing new export markets, and forging stronger South alliances that can actually give India the leverage that it sorely lacks. The US will continue to push its interests. Tariffs will rise and fall, deals will come and go. But the bigger question still is, will India remain a price taker in the global economy, or will it rise to become a price setter? As of now, India's Commerce Ministry is currently reviewing the implications. Remember, India has already made concessions. Tariffs on Harley-Davidson motorcycles, bourbon whiskey and other US goods were slashed to encourage a broader trade deal. And this basically triggers the bigger question. Why is Trump targeting India while staying silent on others? And here's the contradiction in a way. Donald Trump has publicly slammed India for buying Russian oil, while also stating that China is Russia's biggest energy customer. Yet, China faces no new US tariffs, no sanctions, no threats. Is the US afraid of China then? And that's not all. Trump also put out a post on his social media handle about striking a trade deal with Pakistan, including plans to develop its massive oil reserves, quote unquote. Just for context here, India's oil reserves, over 4.8 billion barrels, far exceed Pakistan's, which is less than 10% of India's stock. And America knows this. So an oil deal with Pakistan is perhaps aimed at strong-arming India to abandon Russian oil in favor of American barrels. But as a sovereign nation, India reserves the right to buy from any partner, be it Russia, the US, the Gulf, or elsewhere. And the numbers tell another truth, by the way. While Donald Trump talks about trade deficits, analysts at the Global Trade Research Initiative estimate that the US actually enjoys a $35 to $40 billion net surplus with India when education, tech services, defense imports, royalties, and financial flows are factored in. So who is treating whom unfairly, if at all? Remember, Trump had claimed that he had helped broker a ceasefire between India and Pakistan back in May. Prime Minister Modi clarified and shut down that narrative in the parliament, stating that no foreign power influenced India's Operation Sindoor, making it clear that no world leader asked India to stop the operation. In a way, directly contradicting Donald Trump's claims. And all of this begs the question, why does Trump treat India like a bargaining chip while turning a blind eye to China in a way? If Russian oil is the issue, why not punish China? Because this does not seem to be foreign policy. It's just simply double standards. Japan's glitzy host club culture, where young men charm women into spending fortunes for sweet nothings, is under fire. Once masked as a harmless escape, the illusion of intimacy is now unraveling into a national scandal in a way. Authorities have launched a crackdown on these clubs of pseudo-romance, where smooth-talking hosts lure women into ordering exorbitantly priced drinks. For the customers, these clubs are an escape, a place to let loose.
The interior is so luxurious, and it's an experience you don't usually get. There's this uplifting atmosphere. Everyone hypes each other up. It's that kind of vibe.
But what starts out as flirtation also often spirals into financial ruin. Women, many from vulnerable backgrounds, have reportedly been manipulated into racking up debts so deep and so steep, some are coerced into sex work just to pay them off.
One major issue is that many of the girls who go to host clubs are very young and often don't have much financial means. Yet they're pressured into running tabs far beyond what they can afford, like being asked to buy a 500,000 or 1 million yen bottle, even if the host doesn't explicitly demand it. Even subtle remarks can create that pressure.
The crackdown follows the introduction of a new law in June banning any form of emotional manipulation that drives women to overspend. It strikes at the core of the host club business model, where romance is scripted, intimacy is transactional, and love is just a lie wrapped in velvet and vodka. The owners of the club are not happy.
Honestly, I think the industry is heading toward decline. Girls might not change much. Some might even find it easier to come now that the pressure's off, so that customer base could expand. But if there are fewer boys, naturally fewer girls will come.
Japanese authorities are now actively enforcing these regulations, seeking to ensure fair practices and prevent financial exploitation. This regulatory shift marks a pivotal moment for Japan's nightlife, aiming to redefine the boundaries of acceptable conduct within an industry that has long operated on the nuances of emotional engagement and significant financial transactions, striving for a more equitable environment for all. India is quietly building a weapon that could change the battlefield forever, and that is making Pakistan deeply nervous. Meet the bunkerbuster variant of the Agni 5 missile, a hypersonic deep penetration warhead that could obliterate enemy command bunkers buried deep under rock and concrete, developed by DRDO. This version of Agni 5 is not just any other missile. It is engineered to punch through 80 to 100 meters of reinforced concrete or mountain rock, making it one of the world's most lethal non-nuclear weapons, with a payload of up to 8,000 kilograms and speeds between Mach 8 and Mach 20, that's up to 24,000 kilometers per hour. This missile becomes virtually impossible to intercept. By the time you see it, it's already hit. So what does this mean for India's adversaries, really? It's already making them nervous. A latest report in Pakistan's Dawn newspaper warns that the Indian missile could be aimed at Pakistan. And here's why Pakistan is nervous. You see, Pakistan relies heavily on underground nuclear and missile infrastructure. Sites like Kirana Hills, Masroor Air Base are buried beneath terrain to evade airstrikes. The Agni 5 basically changes that equation. It gives India the ability to destroy nuclear command centers without using nuclear weapons, which brings us to the big question of why now? Why is India developing this now? And the answer is quite simple, because India has reasons to develop such deterrence. Pakistan's nuclear-first posture and China's growing aggression make having strategic dominance essential for New Delhi. And the tipping point, in a way, was the June 2025 US strike on Iran's Fordo facility, which it carried out using its bunkerbuster that had sent shockwaves across the world. How exactly does India's new missile then stack up against the world's most feared bunkerbuster? While Agni 5 is a missile that flies at hypersonic speeds, the GBU is a guided bomb that drops from 50,000 feet at subsonic speeds. India's missile is also cheaper, more mobile, and much harder to defend against. So it's not just brute force. Agni 5 uses cutting-edge targeting systems. Its canister-based launch system basically means that it can be moved and fired from roads or railways quicker and stealthier. Make no mistake here, this missile is a message. It gives India credible deterrence and the ability to destroy underground enemy sites conventionally. And it's also built entirely in India. Only a handful of countries have this kind of technology. With Agni 5, India also joins the elite club and possibly ranks second only to the US in bunker busting capability. This is not the first time that the Agni missile family has played a key role in strategic operations. India's Operation Sindoor strikes against Pakistan sponsors of terror involved the use of various missile systems, including the nuclear-capable Agni series, Prithvi 2 and Akash Prime missiles. The presence of Agni served as a silent shield, projecting strength and deterring escalation, and signaling India's readiness to strike hard. And now with the bunkerbuster version, that capability is no longer just a warning. It's a precision kill option.